Okay, so I'm a sci-fi fantasy nerd and I just finished the 8th book in the Wheel of Time. So far, interesting series. There are some, slow parts. Uh, but actually, in the 8th book, I didn't notice that it was that slow, even though that's supposed to be the start of the slog. So let's just, go through some of my thoughts so far on the series. Okay, so book one, Eye of the World. This was an interesting book. The first half of the book is really just like rebranded Fellowship of the Ring, and I get it that that's what he was trying to do, but it was so much like it in a certain way that it just irked me a little bit for the first half. Then in the second half of the book, it was, starting to evolve into its own world, own situations. Um, so fairly good book. It was enough to keep me going, but not the most amazing, first book in the series. Okay, second book, The Great Hunt. This book, I was really sort of shocked at the dramatic up-leveling of the skills of all the characters. I get it, in the Eye of the World, it's all the kids are kids, and then all of a sudden they have to be these big powerful people that are roaming around the world, and they're taking on monsters and all of this stuff. But it was a little jarring going from, oh, these kids are innocent and they don't really know much, to all of a sudden they're like super powerful. So it felt like that they jumped a little bit too fast for me. Book 3, The Dragon Reborn. This was actually the book that I read where I said, okay, I think I'm actually going to read this series. So this is where I started to get more character development in some of the different characters, got out of some of the situations that I thought were a little bit too tropey in the first two books. So I enjoyed this one. This was the one where I said, okay, let's keep on going. The first two books, I can read two books and just be like, okay, like, I don't know if I like this, but if I'm going to read the third book and go beyond that to read 15 books, I need to know that it's going to be something that I'm going to enjoy. Fourth book, Shadow Rising. I really liked this book. There was some specific storylines within this book with some specific characters that I really enjoyed. The character development continued to rise with some of these characters, and I just really enjoyed it. These four books, I started reading these books like quite a while ago, a few years ago, right before the Amazon Prime show was going to come out, because I like to read books before I watch anything, because I don't want it to be ruined by the imaginations of the directors and the writers who are producing TV shows or movies. So I did the same thing with Lord of the Rings in high school. It was like Lord of the Rings was going to come out, Fellowship of the Ring was going to come out, and I was like, you know what, I need to read these now so that I can get my own perspective, my own visualizations of things before they come out. But these four books, I read them in the first year, in 1 year, and I just blasted through them, and I loved these first four. Fires of Heaven. I also really loved Fires of Heaven. This one was very interesting. A lot of interesting things are happening with the main character and with other characters, and the development, and going here and going there, and a lot of fights, and sort of like picking up speed, plot, and everything. So this was a very enjoyable book. Lord of Chaos. This book is where, for some of the perspectives in the middle of the book, it became a little bit difficult for me to get through, because it felt like it was just going so slow, and it didn't feel like anything was happening, and it felt like a lot of the different chapters were from perspectives that weren't really moving and weren't really producing anything for the plot. That being said, there's a really big conclusion at the end of this book. It has an amazing climax, amazing ending to this book. So it's a good book, but it started to have like some of those issues in the middle of the book for me where I was having trouble getting through it. Okay, Crown of Swords, very similar to Fires from Heaven, the previous book, is that the conclusion was awesome, but in the middle there's like certain perspectives that were lagging a little bit. And then we get to the Path of Daggers, which is supposed to be the start of the slog. So for people that don't know, Wheel of Time fans, they call book 8, 9, 10, and 11, and some people say it starts in book 7, the slog, where it's like you have to power through this portion of the story in order to get to the end because there's not a lot happening, blah, 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 blah. This is only the first book in the slog. I can't definitively say that it's hocus pocus, but I experienced slogginess in book 6 and 7, and I did not experience slugginess in book 8. For one, it's a lot shorter. It feels like in book 6 and 7, there's a big chunk of words in the middle of the book that could have been condensed. In some cases, it felt like there was like 2 or 3 chapters that could have been condensed down to 1 chapter. I didn't feel that with this. I felt like it was pretty flowy, and some of the perspectives that had a lot of slogginess in books 6 and 7 actually had a lot of action and a lot of plot movement in book 8. Overall, I've finished 8 books, about 55% of the pages in the full 15-book series, including the prequel. Yeah, good series so far. Obviously, it's kept me engaged. I did struggle a little bit after book 5 because I picked up book 6 and I was just like, it sat there for a while. So I think it has been a few years since I started. And we will see how long it takes me. I have 6 books plus the prequel to go. So we'll see how long it takes. So for any of those out there who are fans of the Wheel of Time, let me know, does book 9, 10, 11, do they get sloggier than book 8? Do you agree with me that 6 and 7 have some slogginess in the middle and book 8 is actually not that bad?